Hi guys, let's read the Environment and Disaster Management section of 12th series of ALS Current Affairs 2019-2020. So the first topic is L7 Quadricycle Category for BS6. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways on 22nd May 2020 issued a notification regarding the emission norms for L7 quadricycle category for BS6. What is quadricycle vehicle verification? The quadricycle is a European Union vehicle category for four-wheeled microcars, which allows these vehicles to be designed to less stringent requirements when compared to regular cars. Quadricycles are defined by limitations in terms of weight, engine power and speed. There are two categories of quadricycles. The first one is light quadricycles L6E and the another one is heavy quadricycles L7E. What are the new notified norms? The first one is these norms are applicable from the date of notification. Number two, this notification completes the process of BS6 for all L, M, and N category vehicles in India. Number three, the emission norms are in line with EU with WMTC cycle. Number four, the procedure for testing is laid down in Automotive Industry Standard AIS 137 Part 9. What is the WMTC cycle? The World Motorcycle Test The World Motorcycle Test Cycle is a system of driving cycles used to measure fuel consumption and emissions in motorcycles. The methods are stipulated as part of the global technical regulation established under the UN World Forum for Harmonization of Vehicle Regulations, also known as WP.29. How is BS6 different from BS4? The major difference between the existing BS4 and forthcoming BS6 norms is the presence of sulfur in the fuel. While the BS4 fuels contain 50 parts per million sulfur, the BS6 grade fuel only has 10 parts per million sulfur contained. Also, the harmful nitrogen oxides from diesel cars can be brought down by nearly 70%. In the petrol cars, they can be reduced by 25%. However, when we talk about air pollution, particulate matter like PM2.5 and PM10 are the most harmful components, and the BS6 will bring the cancer-causing particulate matter in diesel cars by a phenomenal 80%. Sulfur contained for petrol and diesel by emission norms. So this green shows for petrol and red is for diesel. So Bharat stage 1 500 parts per million in case of petrol, and diesel would be 2000 parts per million. Then for Bharat stage 2 it would be 500 for petrol and 500 for diesel. Then for Bharat stage 3 it would be 150 for petrol and 350 for diesel. For Bharat stage 4 it would be 50 for petrol and 50 for diesel, and for Bharat stage 6 it would be 10 for petrol and 10 for diesel in terms of parts per million. This is nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide are among the various harmful pollutants released by an engine. So, nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide. Now let's come to next topic, that is cicadas. A brood of periodical cicadas, noisy insects that breed underground for as long as 13 to 17 years, are expected to emerge into some states on the eastern coast of the US this year. Cicadas are insects that spend most of their lives underground and emerged from the soil mainly to mate and once out of the ground. Their lifespan is fairly short, somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Cicadas are herbivores and live in the soil and feed on tree roots for a period of 3 to 17 years depending on the species. They are not harmful to humans and can be a food source for animals and birds. Male cicadas sing by vibrating membranes on their abdomen to attract the females for mating. This year, the grouping, dubbed Brood 9, will emerge after spending 17 years underground into states including Southwest Virginia, parts of North Carolina, and West Virginia, and people living in these areas will experience a unique natural phenomenon that has not occurred in most of the area since 2003. Damage caused by them. They only live for 2 to 4 weeks as adults, but during that time can cause significant damage to many ornamental and hardwood trees, especially newly planted fruits and ornamental trees such as apple, dogwood, peach, cherry, and pear, among others. Now let's come to the next topic, that is Jaru mussel. An invasive mussel native to the South and Central American coast is spreading quickly in the backwaters of Kerala. The rapid spread of the Jaru mussel, Metalestrigata, may have been triggered by Cyclone Oki, which struck the region in 2017. With a population as high as 11,384 per square meter here, it has replaced the Asian green mussel, Perna viridis, and the edible oyster, Magellana bilineata. Okay, so Magellana bilineata, known locally as moringa. Externally, the Jaru mussel resembles the green and brown mussels, Kalumeka in Malayalam, but is much smaller in size. Its color varies from black to brown, purple, or dark green. Surveys show the presence of the Jaru mussel in the Kadinamkulam, Paravur, Idava Nadayara, Astamudi, Gayamkulam, Bembanad, Jetuva, and Ponani estuaries or backwaters. Astamudi Lake, a Ramsar site in Kollam district, remains the worst hit. Threats posed. So what are the threats which are posed by this Jaru mussel? Though this smaller mussel is edible, the overall economic loss and impact on biodiversity are much bigger. It is pointed out, okay, so it's pointed out that its impact on the economic loss and biodiversity are very huge. It is throwing out other mussel and clam species and threatening the livelihoods of fishermen engaged in shrimp fisheries. So it's harming the ecosystem and even the livelihood of fishermen. Now let's come to the next topic, that is Asian koel. Due to silence on the roads and an extended spring, the Asian koel is found breeding across Delhi NCR area. It is the state bird of Puducherry and found in South and Southeast Asia. Its scientific name is Odynemis scolopaceus, which indicates fine power. Its scientific name is Odynemis scolopaceus, which indicates fine power. The genus is derived from the Greek word eu meaning fine, dunamix meaning power, and species scolopaceus meaning long-billed. It prefers staying in a dense, thick forest with thick trees and bamboos, light woodland, and cultivation areas. It is classified as least concerned by the IUCN on the red list of threatened species. It is found in Australia, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, from southeastern Asia to New Guinea and Solomon Islands. It is a migratory bird because it migrates to warmer areas during winter. It is an omnivorous bird as they feed mainly on fruits and berries in trees, feasting on the ripe fruits, and also feed on insects, eggs, small vertebrates, and caterpillars. Now let's come to the next topic, that is desert locust attack. Desert locust attack. India is facing the worst locust attack in 27 years in the western and northwestern parts of the country. Desert locusts started arriving in Rajasthan during the first fortnight of April, with the subsequent arrival of their swarms from the main spring breeding areas. These locusts moved from the western Rajasthan to the eastern parts of Rajasthan and even Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. Much of these movement seemed to be aided by the strong westerly winds from Cyclone Amphan in the Bay of Bengal. So behind these locust attacks, there are two meteorological drivers. Firstly, unseasonal heavy rains in the main spring breeding tracts in March-April, and two, strong westerly winds. The current swarms contain immature locusts. These feed on vegetation roughly around their own weight in fresh food every day before being ready for mating but have not yet laid eggs. A single gregarious female locust can lay 60 to 80 eggs 3 times during its average life cycle of 90 days. If this growth of locust is coterminous with that of the kharif crop, it will have a devastating effect on the agri-economy. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization (FAO) has expressed concern that several successive waves of invasions can be expected until July in Rajasthan, with eastward surges across northern India as far as Bihar and Orissa. Desert locust. The desert locust scientific name Cysticerca gregaria. So the desert locust scientific name Cysticerca gregaria is one of about a dozen species of short-horned grasshoppers, Acridoidea, that are known to change their behavior and form swarms of adults or bands of hoppers, wingless nymphs. The desert locusts are usually restricted to the semi-arid and arid deserts of Africa, the Near East and Southwest Asia that receive less than 200 millimeters of rain annually. The desert locust lives a total of about 3 to 5 months, although this is extremely variable and depends mostly on weather and ecological conditions. The life cycle comprises three stages: egg, hopper, and adult. Originating over Africa, these locusts move from the western region to central and then eastern regions as their population increases. They have entered India through Iran and Pakistan. They are harmless to humans but pose a threat to vegetation and crops in their way. They pose a threat to aircraft in the critical landing and takeoff phase of the flight. So, what is the way forward? As the Rabi season is over in India, still there is time left for the next Kharif season. This advantage can be utilized by government and different agencies to tackle the locust attack menace. Now let's come to the next topic, that is Debru Saikhowa National Park, DSNP. The Oil India Limited League in Assam has contaminated water bodies that flow into the Maguri Motapung Bale, a large wetland, and the Debru Saikhowa National Park. Debru Saikhowa is a national park as well as a biosphere reserve situated in Assam. The park is bounded by the Brahmaputra and Lohit rivers in the north and Debru River in the south. So let's know about its vegetation. Moist mixed semi-evergreen forest, moist mixed deciduous forest, canebrakes and grasslands. It is also the largest salix swamp forest in northeastern India. Now let's come to the next topic, that is the World Dugong Day. The World Dugong Day was celebrated on May 28, 2020. Dugongs are an endangered marine species like sea turtles, seahorses, sea cucumbers, and others. Dugongs are an important part of the marine ecosystem, and their depletion will have effects all the way up the food chain. Dugongs are mammals, which means they give birth to live young and then produce milk and nurse them. So they give birth to young ones and then produce milk and nurse them. Once the female is pregnant, she will carry the unborn baby, called a fetus, for 12 to 14 months before giving birth. Female dugongs give birth underwater to a single calf at 3 to 7 years intervals. Dugongs graze on sea grass, especially young shoots and roots in shallow coastal waters. They can consume up to 40 kilograms of sea grass in a day. They are protected in India under Schedule 1 of World of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. There were just 250 dugongs in the Gulf of Mannar in Tamil Nadu, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and the Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat, according to the 2013 survey report of the Geological Survey of India (ZSI). Hundreds of dugongs inhabited waters off the Orissa, West Bengal, and Andhra Pradesh coast 2 centuries back, but they are extinct in these areas now. Seagrass in Orissa's Chilka Lake is a proper habitat for dugongs. However, there is not extant population in Chilka. Human activities such as the destruction and modification of habitat, pollution, rampant illegal fishing activities, vessel strikes, unsustainable hunting or poaching, and unplanned tourism are the main threats to dugongs. The loss of seagrass beds due to ocean floor trawling over the was the most important factor behind dwindling dugong populations in many parts of the world. Conservation of migratory species of wild animals. Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals (CMS) and Environmental Treaty under the aegis of the United Nations Environment Programme. The Government of India is a signatory to the CMS. Since 1983, India has signed non-legally binding Memorandum of Understanding with CMS on the conservation and management of number 1. Siberian cranes 1998, number 2. Marine turtles 2007, number 3. Dugongs 2008, number 4. Raptors 2016. The 13th Conference of Parties (COP) of CMS was hosted by India in February 2020 at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Now let's come to the next topic, that is Scorpaenopsis neglecta. Recently, a new species of fish called Scorpaenopsis neglecta was discovered by the researchers at the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute (CMFRI). It is a rare band-tail scorpion fish found off the Sethukarai coast in the Gulf of Mannar. It is the first time that this particular species has been found live in the Indian waters. It was found during an underwater exploratory survey of the seagrass ecosystem in the region by the Kochi headquartered CMFRI scientists. The rare fish, found camouflaged within the seagrass meadows, is a rare marine species well known for stinging venomous spines and an ability to change color. It is called scorpion fish because its spines contain neurotoxin venom that can be extremely painful to an individual. The fish can even detect respiratory ventilation flaws produced by crabs at a distance of 10 centimeters in a dark environment because of a highly evolved sensory system. The band-tailed scorpion fish uses its lateral sensory system instead of eyes to hunt its prey. It has the ability to change its color and blend with its surrounding environment to escape from predators and while hunting its prey. Now let's come to the next topic, that is expansion of the Amory Ice Shelf (AIS). The National Center for Polar and Ocean Research (NCPOR) in a prediction has stated that there would be a 24% increase in the expansion of Amory Ice Shelves (AIS) boundaries by 2021 and another 24% expansion by 2026 from its 2016 positions. The AIS is one of the largest glacier drainage basins in the world, located on the east coast of Antarctica at about 70° south latitude, 70° east longitude. The AIS dynamics and mass balance help in understanding the changes in the global climate scenario. The National Center for Polar and Ocean Research (NCPOR) in Goa has predicted that there would be a 24% increase in the expansion of the Ameri ice shelf (AIS) boundaries in Antarctica by 2021 and another 24% by 2026 from its 2016 positions. The prediction made by the NCPOR is based on a 16-year-long satellite-based observation that covered an area of 60,000 square kilometers across the AIS. This study would help understand the ongoing changes in the ocean and atmospheric forcing better. The NCPOR carried out this study based on the satellite data collected from 2001 to 2016. NCPOR, the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, formerly known as the National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research, NCAOR, is an Indian research and development institution situated in Vasco da Gama, Goa. It is an autonomous institution of the Department of Ocean Development (DoD), Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, which is responsible for administering the Indian Antarctic Program and maintains the Indian government's Antarctic research stations, Bharati and Maitri. The NCPOR complex is a home to a special low-temperature laboratory and is setting up a National Antarctic Data Center and a polar museum. Apart from this, the NCPOR operates in different fields or tasks, operating the Himadri and INDARC Arctic research stations in Svalbard, Norway, managing the Oceanic Research Vessel (ORV) Sagar Kanya, the flagship of India's fleet of oceanographic study vessels. Now let's come to the next topic, that is I-Commit initiative. #I-Commit initiative. The Ministry of Power launched #I-Commit initiative on the occasion of World Environment Day on June 5, 2020. It is a clarion call to all stakeholders and individuals to continue moving towards energy efficiency, renewable energy, and sustainability to create a robust and resilient energy system in the future. The nodal agency for the implementation of the initiative is Energy Efficiency Services Limited, EESL, under the administration of Ministry of Power. It aims to unite a diverse set of players such as governments, corporates, multilateral and bilateral organizations, think tanks, and individuals. It can bring together a diverse spectrum of government and private players to build a new energy future for India. It is centered around the idea of building an energy resilient future, and a prerequisite for that goal is to create a flexible and agile power system. It will also celebrate and promote key undertakings of Government of India such as National Electric Mobility Mission 2020. FAME 1 and 2, Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana, and the Saubhagya Scheme, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, Uday, Atal Distribution System Improvement Yojana, Aditya, Smart Meter National Program, प्रधानमंत्री किसान ऊर्जा सुरक्षा एवं उत्थम उत्थान महाअभियान Kusum. So Kusum stands for Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uthan Mahaabhiyan Kusum. Solar parks, grid connected rooftop Unnat Jyoti by affordable LED for all. Ujala Atal Jyoti Yojana Ajay amongst others. Now let's come to the next topic, that is sixth mass extinction. The ongoing sixth mass extinction may be one of the most serious environmental threats to the persistence of civilization, according to new research published in an American journal. The study analyzed 29,400 species of terrestrial vertebrates and determined which of these are on the brink of extinction because they have fewer than 1,000 individuals. Out of the studied species, they concluded that over 515 of them are near extinction. The current loss of species, which is based on the disappearance of their component populations, has been occurring since the 1800s. Most of these 515 species are from South America, 30%, followed by Oceania, 21%, Asia, 21%, and Africa, 16%, among others. The Anthropocene extinction. Mass extinction refers to a substantial increase in the degree of extinction or when the Earth loses more than three-quarters of its species in a geologically short period of time. So far during the entire history of the Earth, there has been 5 mass extinctions. The sixth, which is ongoing, is referred to as the Anthropocene extinction. The 5 mass extinctions that took place in the last 450 million years have led to the destruction of 70 to 95% of the species of plants, animals, and microorganisms that existed earlier. These extinctions were caused by catastrophic alterations to the environment, such as massive volcanic eruptions, depletion of oceanic oxygen, or collision with an asteroid. After each of these extinctions, it took millions of years to regain species comparable to those that existed before the event. So, to regain species comparable to those that existed before the event, it took millions of years. So, what is the sixth mass extinction then? Researchers have described it as the most serious environmental problem since the loss of species will be permanent. Even though only an estimated 2% of all the species that ever lived are alive today, the absolute number of species is greater now than ever before. The research claims that this extinction is human caused and is more immediate than climate destruction. Major drivers of mass extinction. Significantly, the study calls for a complete ban on wildlife trade, as many of the species currently endangered or on the brink of extinction are being decimated by legal and illegal wildlife trade. The current COVID-19 pandemic, while not fully understood, is also linked to the wildlife trade. There is no doubt that there will be more pandemics if man continues destroying habitats and trading wildlife for own consumption as food and traditional medicines. What happens when species go extinct? When species go extinct, The impact can be tangible, such as in the form of a loss in crop pollination and water purification. Further, if a species has a specific function in an ecosystem, the loss can lead to consequences for other species by impacting the food chain. The effects of extinction will worsen in the coming decades as the resulting genetic and cultural variability will change entire ecosystems. If the number of individuals in a population or species drop, their contribution to ecosystem services become unimportant. Their genetic variability and resilience is reduced and its contribution to human welfare may be lost, the study said. Now let's come to the next topic, that is aerosols radiative effects in the Himalayas. Indian researchers have found that the effect of anthropogenic aerosols is much higher over the high altitude of western Trans-Himalayas. Aerosols are defined as a combination of liquid or solid particles suspended in a gaseous or liquid environment. In the atmosphere, these particles are mainly situated on the low layers of the atmosphere less than 1.5 km, since aerosol sources are located on the terrestrial surface. However, certain aerosols can still be found in the stratosphere, especially volcanic aerosols ejected into the high altitude layers. The origin of atmospheric aerosols is either natural or the result of anthropogenic activities. Natural sources of aerosols include sea salt generated from breaking waves, mineral dust blown from the surface by wind, and volcanoes. Anthropogenic aerosols include sulfate, nitrate, and carbonaceous aerosols and are mainly from fossil fuel combustion sources. The atmospheric aerosols play a key role in the regional or global climate system through catering and absorption of incoming solar radiation and by modifying the cloud structure. The transport of light absorbing carbonaceous aerosols and dust from the polluted Indo-Gangetic Plain and desert areas over the Himalayas constitutes a major climatic issue due to severe impacts on the atmospheric warming and glacier retreat. This heating over the Himalayas facilitates the elevated heat pump that strengthens the temperature gradient between land and ocean and modifies the atmospheric circulation and the monsoon rainfall. Now let's come to aerosol optical depth AOD. The aerosol optical depth AOD is a measure of how light is absorbed or reflected by airborne particles as it travels through the atmosphere. If aerosols are concentrated near the surface, an optical depth of 1 or above indicates very hazy conditions. An optical depth or thickness of less than 0.1 over the entire atmospheric vertical column is considered clean. The angstrom exponent is a parameter that describes how the optical thickness of an aerosol typically depends on the wavelength of the light. The lower values of angstrom exponent, so the lower values of angstrom component AE in spring indicated dominance of coarse mode dust aerosols. Aerosols radiative forcing in Trans-Himalayas. Recently, a study by the Aryabhatta Research Institute of Observational Sciences ARIS has found that radiative forces of aerosols, that is, effect of anthropogenic aerosols, is much higher over the high altitudes of western Trans-Himalayas. The ARIES, located in Nainital, is an autonomous research institute under the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology. The study analyzed the variability of aerosol optical, physical, and radiative properties from January 2008 to December 2018 and the role of fine and coarse particles in aerosol radiative forcing ARF assessment. The ARF aerosol radiative forcing is the effect of anthropogenic aerosols on the radiative fluxes at the top of the atmosphere and at the surface and on the absorption of radiation within the atmosphere. The ARF values at top of the atmosphere were mostly low over Henley and Merak. Henley and Merak, situated in Ladakh, are the part of Indian Astronomical Observatory (IAO). Highlights of the study: change in temperature. The study shows that monthly mean atmospheric radiative forcing of aerosols lead to heating rates of 0.04 to 0.13 degrees Celsius per day. Aerosol optical depth (AOD). The observations show that the aerosol optical depth exhibited a distinct seasonal variation with higher values 0.07 in May and lower 0.03 in winter months. Composition of air: pure and polluted dust exhibited fractions between 16% and 23% with a low frequency of less than 13% of absorbing aerosols, denoting weak influence of anthropogenic aerosols and black carbon over the Trans-Himalayan sites. Trans-Himalayas. The Trans-Himalayas mountain region is located north of the Great Himalayas, which consist of Karakoram, Ladakh, Zanskar, and Kailash mountain ranges. It is also called the Tibet Himalayan region because most of the part of these ranges lies in Tibet. So Trans-Himalayas. The Trans-Himalayas mountain region is located north of the Great Himalayas, which consist of Karakoram, Ladakh, Zanskar, and Kailash mountain ranges. It is also called the Tibet Himalayan region because most of the part of these ranges lies in Tibet. Now let's come to the next topic, that is brown rock jet. Recently, it has been observed that the brown rock jet has almost disappeared from the heart of the national capital. Brown rock jet is also called as Indian jet, which is a bird species of the family Muscicapidae. It is nearly endemic to India, distributed north of the Narmada, west to Gujarat and east to Bengal, bordered on the north by the Himalayas, where it is found only until about 1,300 meters in the foothills. It is commonly found in agricultural fields, in buildings, and in suburban areas. It feeds mainly on insects, captured mainly on the ground. It is protected under Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. It is listed as List Concern as per the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. So that's all guys. See you in my next video. Bye.